I'm Amanda.
And I'm Mike. And
this is Saturday Morning Cereal. What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Saturday Morning Cereal. I'm Amanda here with Mike, and today I want to welcome back Cereal fam member Kevin.
Hi,
who
everybody.
is also a huge horror movie fan.
Yeah.
So welcome back, Kevin.
Thank you.
I feel like we have a Scream episode every season of this podcast.
Yeah, you picked a good time to start this podcast because, this is 2 seasons in a row. I'm loving it. And we had Halloween in between. I'm loving it.
Yeah, we got some good stuff coming. So I like I told you earlier, I don't have notes because you are such a huge Scream fan.
I am. I certainly am.
Like Kevin Luce.
Yes. So, okay, let's start off, Kevin, by just what did you think of the cast? Everybody. Courtney Cox is back as Gail, which I'm just kind of like about.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like we'll probably get to this later, but I thought this was going to be like her last one.
Yeah. For a minute, I thought it was.
Right. And then Melissa Barrera as Sam Carpenter, and then Jenna Ortega as Tara Carpenter. So what would you say? They're the next two main characters of this franchise.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm really happy that they scored I just called her Tara, but her real name is Jenna Ortega. Thank you. Silly. I know her name because I love a lot of her work. I saw her in X, I saw her in Wednesday, and I'm really glad that the Scream franchise was able to lock her up before she became too big of a star. Because she's really great. I think she brings a lot to this franchise, to her character. She's likable. Her older sister, played by, I don't know her name, Melissa Barrera, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, Melissa Barrera. She's interesting to me. I don't like her as much, but I also don't think that I'm necessarily supposed to, based on the way the story is set up. So I'm okay with that. But I love me some Courtney Cox. I was very, very, very upset in that moment where I didn't know if she was going to make it, and I'm very happy she did pull through, even though it's ridiculous. But I enjoyed this cast. There was a moment where I was looking at the cast and I was like, wow, it's really nice that it's not all white people, because this franchise has historically been all white people. And it was kind of refreshing to be sitting there with my friends watching this movie. And I don't have all white friends. And it was cool to be like, wow, that's like all of us. Like, that looks like our group. So that was kind of cool for me. And I was really into it. So I like those two new additions. And I don't know what their names in real life are either. They made
we have Mindy. So there's Mindy. She's the best friend of Sam and Tara, played by Jasmine Savoy Brown. And then Chad, who's played by Mason Gooding.
I like both of them a lot. They're really funny. Yeah. I think that they've got Mindy has great Randy quality. I think that she keeps pulling that out in a really cool way. The romantic interest between Tara and the brother, that was a little, I don't know where that's going to go. I'm interested to see where that goes because it didn't really fully fit in for me.
I really enjoyed it because I love how like a best friend and like the sister, or like your best friend and then the sibling fall in love, and they're just like really good buddies, and then they fall for each other. I thought that was kind of adorable.
You know what I think I wanted? I think I either wanted less of it or more of it. I don't feel like they nailed the correct amount. I know the movie was already kind of long, but I would have liked to have seen, maybe even in the last Scream movie. I wish that was a part of the story, so it didn't feel like it just happened all of a sudden. But if they continue on with it, I think it could be something that goes strong, like kind of the new Dewey and Gale characters in the fact that they're the romantic part in the story.
And then we actually have a reoccurring character that came into this film, Hayden Patton. I can never say her name. Panettiere.
That's how I say it. I
Yeah.
I heard on another podcast someone pronounce her name completely different, and I wasn't sure if they were just being pompous or if I was an idiot and I've been pronouncing it wrong all these years. The jury is still
Yeah, we're probably idiots, but
out.
that's okay.
That's okay. That's okay.
That's fine. But she's back as Kirby. And Kevin, what did you think about her return?
I was very happy to see her. Um, that actually is a good example of like they planted this idea in our minds that she survived in part 5. So when she came back in part 6, it felt very purposeful. It didn't really feel like a gimmick, even though we could absolutely call it a gimmick, but it felt like a purposeful moment because they had revealed that she was alive. I thought it was really funny how she was like in the FBI, and there was that moment between her and Courtney Cox of being like, "Wait, are you old enough to be in the FBI?" And I just thought that that was really funny because this is how old this series is. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, children who were in part 4 are now like full ass grown adults, and I think that that's what's really cool about the series is that requels or not, we have continued a story from 1996 and we're still going. And whether or not people agree it should still be going, it is still going. And it is one of the few series that has like a fluid story that doesn't try to crazily reinvent itself every episode just so it could stay fresh. Of course, it did do a little reinvention, but not Halloween Ends level of reinvention, which I believe is problematic. I really liked that they stuck to the formula, and bringing back Kirby was so necessary because Nev was gone. So they really needed something more, especially because Courtney Cox wasn't in the third act. So without Kirby, we wouldn't have had any legacy in the third act, and that would have felt really weird.
Mm-hmm. So, what? Let's start with some positives here, Kevin.
Yeah.
What did you like the best in this film? Like, did you and like how they had that whole museum
Mm.
dedicated? I thought
Mhm.
that was pretty neat. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then you also mentioned that Melissa Barrera as Sam Carpenter, the character Sam, she's just kind of, for me, she's just uneasy. But I think it's interesting how this daughter of Billy is starting to get like these hallucinations of like I don't know, going in his footsteps.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how
So
they're going to play that out.
yeah.
I think that they've made it almost so much at this point that for her to actually become Psycho wouldn't really be a surprise. I think that that's why I don't think that they're necessarily going to do it. They might do it, but I am interested to see what happens with that. I definitely think that we're dealing with like a trilogy within the series, or at least this is the next big part of the series, and I know that we're going to get another seventh one probably within the next 2 years because I just feel like the characters have been set up to do a little bit more. Even though I felt that there was a good conclusion for this story. Um, I have so many things that I liked about this movie. I'll start from the beginning. The opening scene, I was in the New York diner club with her. It wasn't even either of those things. It wasn't a diner or a club. It was a bar. And there was music playing, and she was fabulous. I've never seen whoever the hell she is in a movie before. Um, but I know she was in The Babysitter. I know that she was in Ready or Not. And I've never seen either of those films, but I want to now because whoever she was, I was like, wow, I really like watching her. She's cool. Like she just seemed um, interesting to me. And so I was scared because I knew she was going to die. And I thought that was cool. I was like, wow, you brought this really likable person and I know she's going to die. So cool. I like it. Good setup. And I think even though I thought it was lame, because I was like, this is so lame. She's by herself. She's going out in the alley. She should have been killed in the bar in front of everybody. They should have done like a Scream 2 thing where we get to see, but no, she goes out into the alleyway and I'm like, this is a little lame, but I'm so scared. And then she gets killed. Like we know she's going to get killed. And then the killer takes off his mask. And I'm like, wow, okay, now we're playing with something new. And now I'm down. And then we get into the apartment with this new killer and we hear the motive and he's telling the motive, and that's hilarious to me. I just think that this whole thing is hilarious. I'm loving it. I'm thinking it's clever. And then he opens the fridge. Love that. The dead body in the fridge. That's a
Oh.
throwback to Friday the 13th part 2. I
Mhm.
mean, the homaging of sequels was all over the place and I loved that. I loved it. And
How
then
you have the original, like the first killer in this movie get killed by another Ghostface?
yes,
I thought that was pretty cool.
it was so clever. I mean, it was definitely something that you wouldn't anticipate. And then the way they did it, you really believed that those two losers also had this big warehouse, even though in the back of your mind, you're like, how the hell did they afford that? And how the hell could, even with mommy and daddy's money, mommy and daddy would end up finding out and blah, 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 blah. And so there was a little far-fetched element to it. So when it was revealed who actually owns the warehouse, I was like, okay, very good. I'm glad that they had that. What I really liked throughout the film was I only thought there was one ghost face. And I was like, this is cool. Like they're really making me feel, but I know there's not, but they're really making it seem like there's just one. And I thought that that was really cool. And when it turns out to be three, I was like, okay, good, interesting, new. Um, and then I had a hard time with the idea of a family sort of teaming up. I was like, you're going to tell me that four of you are unhinged enough and violent enough to commit this level of mass murder? I mean, this is like, it's a lot, not a lot of people could kill people. Like, it's a hard thing to kill people. Like, people don't want to kill people. And for a whole family, like three siblings and a dad, it just feels a little pushed. But I also felt like the whole movie was playing into a certain level of ridiculous and irony. And with all of the legacy people surviving and, you know, seven people altogether living by the end of the movie, even though we have the most ghost faces we've ever had, I just thought that's so kind of silly, but I like it. I think it's great. I think it's great. And also, it made me think of superhero movies. And I was like, you know, the superheroes live at the end of every superhero movie, and so do the girlfriends most of the time. And if it's a super girl, then their boyfriend survived most of the time. I can only think of a handful of times where the love interest was killed off in those movies. And so it's the same thing. You get, you know, these recurring characters over and over and over again, even though in real life, you know, they would have died by now.
I mean, they have to be superheroes to survive. How many times they've been stabbed?
I know. Well, the stabbing in this movie was insane. I mean, I first of
There
all,
was a part where Tara got stabbed in the back and
yeah,
she gets right up and starts running. I'm like, that should be like, I wouldn't be running. I'd be like,
yes,
dying on the floor.
yes. There was a lot of stabbing, and it felt like the director and the writer and everybody on board was like, listen, in the real world, people only need to get stabbed like 5 times and they're dead. In our movie, let's say it's 20. And I was like, kind of here for it. I don't know why I was here for it, but I was here for it. What I wasn't really here for was, well, we'll get to that later. We're still talking about positives, aren't we? What did you like the most?
Oh, I really liked I just liked Tara.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked her attitude in this whole film and just how she evolved as a character into like I just want to be my own person. Like I want to stop living out of Sam's shadow and I just want to be normal again to respecting her sister. But yet it was a good sibling dynamic overall, but I really liked Tara's character arc in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, I mean, I really like this. I know this was the trailer, but I really like the subway part.
Yes.
I thought that whole part was cool because it was Halloween and you know Ghostface is all the rage, and Mindy had no idea who was the real Ghostface.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And another thing I just love about all these Scream movies is I don't know if you do this, Kevin, but Mike and I, when we watch one for the first time, we sit down, we're like, "That's the killer. That's going to be the killer. That's going to be the killer." Like we always, and then you called the killer in this movie like right. It was the redhead girl. I can't remember her name.
Quinn.
Quinn. Yeah, Mike was like, she's the killer, and I'm like, and then she died. Well, quote unquote died, and I'm like, no, she's not. But she was like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I love most about these movies. It's like, who's the killer?
Now, you brought up a couple of good points, as per usual. First of all, the Halloween thing was such a clever idea for this movie. They've never done Halloween before, they've never done New York before. These are things that you can put into a franchise and really just, that's as simple as you need to be to freshen it up. It's not like this rocket science where you have to reinvent the way and the narrative of the story. It's literally just location and timing, and it created so much intensity and nerves, and I really liked it. I thought it brought a really great element to the story. um, and then you had mentioned the character arcs. I thought Tara's was also very strong. I thought Kirby's character arc was really strong. I think Melissa Barrera's was also, and I know that she um, I guess she was involved with some script rewrites because she really wanted her character to have like that full through line. And I think it was definitely there. um, and what was interesting is I think that the fake out with Quinn was good. I thought that that was done very well, and it's ironic because I hated when they did that in Scream 3. Now, for me, the difference is it makes sense to have someone get killed by the other Scream ghost, fake, like a fake kill, and then they're working together. Same thing that Billy did in the first one. But when Roman does it by himself and he gets everything set up by himself and then somehow is able to still do everything by himself, it just seemed very silly to me. And that's why 3 is my least favorite. But that's literally the biggest reason why 3 is my least favorite, is because Roman could not have killed everybody by himself. And I know there's all this fan theory that Angelina was involved, but that was not in the movie, and so it wasn't true. If it's not in the movie, it's not true. I don't believe it until I see it. So 3 is the worst, period. And the way that they did that with Quinn, I feel like they went back to the way they should have done it, with the other people helping make it look like she was dead, but she wasn't dead. And nobody felt her pulse like they did with Romans. That was so annoying, because when you feel somebody's pulse and there's no pulse, that means they're dead. You can't just stop your pulse. So that was stupid in part 3. But with Quinn getting thrown at her friends, that's hilarious, amazing, scary. And no, they're not going to stop to feel her pulse because the other Scream guy's coming right at them. It's
Well, yeah, they all thought she was banging some dude
yep.
at first, and then then they get that text message, and they're like, "Oh shit!" And then they, and then they get
Mm-hmm.
Quinn gets chucked at them. Like, yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
part was very, very clever.
Yeah, I like
And
that.
I mean, can we just say though, Ethan, he was like, of course, he was one of the ghost face. Like, he was just so awkward.
You know what though? I have to tell you, that was the other thing I wanted to do. So I have never successfully guessed a ghost face before because I keep myself away from spoilers. I really go into the movie like with no with well, I went into the first movie like I didn't even know it was a mystery. And when it was Billy, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's Billy." And then when Stu said what he said and he revealed he was the killer too, I was shook. I was like, "What?" And then when the second movie happened, it was so much fun, and it was still so fresh that I wasn't really thinking about it. And then I was trying to guess in the third movie, and it was stupid because that was the one movie where they did something that would make it impossible to actually guess. Another reason I hate number 3. I don't hate number 3, but that's what makes it the weakest. So then in number 4, I did not guess. I had a feeling it was Jill by the halfway point because I was like, well, that's the only storyline that's really giving here. So I was close with that, but I didn't really guess. I just kind of had a feeling. 5, I had no idea. That was a shock. This one, I knew what I was looking for. I was looking for one character to make one comment about a loss or a problem. I was so hooked in to the way these scripts work at this point that I was like, I'm going to hear this line. And I heard the line. I heard when the detective said that he had lost his son. I was like, he's the killer. Done.
Yep.
He's the killer. Done. And I was pretty like it wasn't until the subway scene where I was like, "Oh, there's more than one killer." But I was still sure it was him. And there was a 5-second like thing where he said Kirby's crazy and I for a second was like, "Ooh," but then I was like, "No, but that's part of his plan." So I actually did guess this killer from the beginning. And but I had no idea that Quinn was involved because I think that they hid that very well. And then also going back to your point, Ethan, I thought that he was so weird and so awkward that there was no way that he was going to be the killer. So
I did at first too,
yeah,
and then when he revealed himself, I'm like, oh, of
of
course.
course, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Which I love that Scream does that. They like make something so obvious, and you're like, that can't be it. It's too obvious, and
Hmm.
then it is that. I think that
And
they
then
do things like that well sometimes.
yeah, and then you mentioned like how Detective Bailey like pivoted and was like Kirby is crazy, and Mike, you actually thought for a second Kirby was the killer, right?
Yeah, I thought because I always wanted one of the original characters to come back and be the killer, and
Mhm.
I was like, oh, here's my chance, and then I was disappointed when she wasn't.
Yeah. There was definitely a moment where I was wondering if she was involved with the detective. And then when he called and said that about her, I was like, he's trying to make her a red herring. She's not even involved, I bet. So by before it was revealed, I was pretty confident she wasn't involved. But I knew that there was somebody else, and I didn't know who else it was because I didn't think it was Ethan, and I didn't think it was Mindy because Ethan was on the train and he didn't see Mindy get stabbed, but we saw him when Mindy was getting stabbed. So it couldn't have been either of them, and we thought Quinn was dead.
Hmm.
So I really did not know who the other killer or killers were, and so that was hidden very well, I thought.
Yeah. And then can we just take a second and talk about Mr. What did they call him? Mr. Good Looking next door?
Yeah.
I think his name was Danny.
Yeah, I would like to talk about that. I am a very, 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 very gay person, and I was not attracted to this man at all. I was so confused why they casted this man. I I'm so sorry, but I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, I just don't really like you. I something about you is just not working for me. Like,
I've seen him. I've seen him before. He was on this TV show called Arrow, and he played like a foil to this superhero called Arrow, and he was like a genuine nice guy, but then he had like the sinister like dark side to him. So I was thinking they were trying to play on top of that,
I
and then we just saw him in She-Hulk earlier this year. He played another lawyer.
Yeah.
So
Oh, see, I've
And
never
he
seen him
was
in anything before, but actually, Simic, I think you just helped me understand what I didn't like. What I did not like was that he was too sinister. And I just was like, I don't get why Melissa Barrera is with this person. She is freaked out about everything, and he is kind of the creepiest person there is. Because, like, every time he would talk to her, he would like do this weird thing with his mouth, and he would kind of like look away from her, and I just felt like he was so I don't know. He felt evil
sketchy,
to me.
evil.
What'd you
yeah,
say, Semic?
I thought he was brooding a lot.
Oh, I
Like
didn't.
in the shadows, like, and then like he'd come out and be like, "Hey, baby,"
No.
to Sam, and I'd be like, "Why is this needed?"
Yeah,
You
no.
know what? I mean, maybe they were trying to have her like come back down to earth a little bit with a potential love interest, but and maybe they were having him be ridiculous on purpose because these movies do have an air of fun and like sarcasm to
Yeah,
them,
definitely.
that they could like just potentially have this character that's just an overly sexualized, brooding, whatever kind of guy.
Yeah.
Well,
And you
they
know what's
always
so
put you to
weird?
think that the love interest is the killer, right? They
Mm.
always play into that every movie.
They do. They do. And this one, I was like, this is not the killer. Like, I just don't. This is not the
Too
killer.
obvious.
Like, I just
And then
felt,
when they go into that museum, she's just like, "No, you stay here
yeah.
because I like you, but I don't trust you." Like that was
Yeah.
pretty good.
And then I just then why are you sleeping with him? Why are you going to his apartment
Yeah,
without any of your friends knowing you're sleeping with him. Like the whole that for me, it was weird because I love how they played the whole Ethan thing. But for and that obviousness was it worked. But for something about that that character, what was his name again?
Danny.
Danny. I did not like Danny. I did not like Danny. No one's gonna convince me. Done.
Yeah. So, can we talk about Gail for a little bit here?
Of course, I'd love to.
Yeah. And I did love Gail, and she was a breath of fresh air to see because it's kind of like seeing an old friend.
Yes.
But I really thought this was going to be it for her. Because it's like how much are they going to play in like she gets stabbed, we think she's going to die, but it's like nope, she's alive.
Yeah.
I'm like, of course she is.
Of course she is. That also was a bit ridiculous. Okay. So that
and then we also were laughing about the throwaway boyfriend she had.
Hilarious. Hilarious. It was the line that was hilarious. Those muscles didn't help him, did they? And she was like, no, they sure didn't. That was the funniest line in the whole movie to me. Yeah. That scene I thought was really great. I felt like you said, we got the old friend back. We get to see her. I liked that she got called finally. And I didn't even realize that she had never been called. It wasn't until he said it that I was like, oh yeah, like she hasn't been called before. This is crazy. And I was scared for her, and because I didn't want her to die. But I wanted more from the chase in that scene. I would have liked it to have been a little bit bigger. I would have liked it to go a little bit longer. And I would have liked her to have done more damage and gotten less damaged herself. But something tells me that her contract says, I have to survive, but I'm really busy filming my new show, so I can't be in the final act. So you're going to have to write this crazy scene where I get stabbed really bad at the end of Act 2, and then I'm free to go. That's kind of how I read that.
I like that she had some type of preparation for a potential attack. Like the other two sisters, they just had knives in their kitchen that they were going to go grab. Like Gail had a gun, and she had like a safe room. Like, go Gail.
Yeah, that was awesome. I actually thought she had she was going to have more of a safe room. Like I was expecting when she was typing in those things that she was going to like walk into a space. I thought that the gun was definitely a cool reveal. But oh my gosh, wasn't it hilarious when she was like, hold on one second, and then she went on the other line and she called him back to see where it would ring? That was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, no, I was happy to see her. And I am wondering if she's going to come back for 7 or if she's going to sort of be like, yeah, I'm done.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not like well tuned with what's going on in this whole Scream universe. So you said Neve Campbell, she's done?
I don't know. She was for 6. I don't know that she said she would never come back, but I think that she said she wasn't going to come back for this one because they weren't paying her well enough. So we'll see if.
Didn't miss her. This movie did really well for a Scream movie. It's the highest grossing one. Like, yes. She's probably shooting herself in the foot right now.
I don't know that she is. A lot of this feels very purposeful to me. As I was watching the movie, I was interested to see kind of how the script was going to unfold because in my mind, they wrote the script with the idea that Neve Campbell was going to come back and star in it. And as I was watching this movie, which was produced within a year of the last movie, so all of that drama happened, plus all the writing, plus all the filming, plus all the editing within a year. So it just feels like it was so fast and the script was so tight without her being a part of it that I felt like she must have been offered some really small part in this movie and they weren't going to pay her a lot to do the small part. I don't know that their intention really was to have her be a big part in this movie. This movie felt very much like it was moving on from her in kind of a natural way. not that she wouldn't come back, but like the motive of the killers had nothing to do with Sydney for the first time. Like it has nothing to do with Sydney. This is about you killed Richie and now we're going to kill you.
Yeah, they mentioned just a little blurb of her, like, what's Sydney up to? Oh, she's, taking cover with her family.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't want any part of this. And that was it. The subject was dropped. And I very much feel like the baton is getting passed to this new group of 4 for this franchise. Just to set it up for these movies, just to keep carrying on forever.
Yes, I do get the sense that they are kind of going in a direction where they're like, okay, well, if we want to keep making these movies for, decades and decades to come, we need to naturally move it on to new people. But I am still wondering. We've never seen her babies. We didn't see Mark since the year 2000 when part 3 came out. And she never even mentioned Mark in part 4. So in my mind, I feel like I'm not sure whether or not that's a true story. And I'm wondering if there's going to be some twist with that comes back. Because I am wondering, like, are they going to take number 7 and bring Sidney Prescott back and truly like close the story? Because it is a franchise, but a franchise can end at any time. You never know when it's going to be the last one.
That's a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, yeah.
So
yeah. So go ahead and whatever you weren't happy with in this movie, Kevin, go off. Let's go.
Well, definitely, we already talked about the love interest. I was not happy with him.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? It wasn't just him. It was the way he was written. It was the way he was, intended to come across. And I just felt like that was a little cheap. And I would have liked to have maybe not even had that character at all. And I don't know what they could have done in the place because he really came in handy when they needed to escape on that ladder.
That's it.
So that was good. I was like, well, at least you're there with the ladder thing. Thanks.
Why does he have a ladder in an apartment? What is the purpose of that? Why would he even need that?
Well, you know what? I did not question that. I live in Los Angeles. I live in West Hollywood, and I don't have a ladder in my home like that. But one of the reasons I don't is because my landlord has multiple ladders that I could use at any time. But when you live in New York or in LA and you have a 1-bedroom apartment, you might find certain things in our apartments that you would normally find in a person's shed because we don't have the space outside. So that to me was not far-fetched. I actually fully bought that. That was fine. Like definitely. What didn't I like? I don't know. It was harder for me to buy the 3 characters being the killers, like the daughter and the son. Like I don't know. I just feel like 17 and 18 and 19-year-olds, those Gen Z kids, they want nothing to do with, following what their parents want. So how are we going to get a whole family to agree to murder on behalf of one father's anger? It just seemed a little, but perhaps part of number 7. I'd be interested to know how that came to be. I've never been so curious about a team of killers coming together and making a choice like this as I was with this movie, because it seemed the most sort of hard to finagle. I didn't like that Sydney wasn't in it. I would have liked to have seen 1 or 2 scenes where, she's still a part of it, but that's okay. It didn't ruin it. I don't know. What didn't you both like about it? Maybe that'll spark something in me because
I just really miss Dewey.
Oh yeah.
Dewey was my favorite. And we got a new rabbit this past week, and Mike made up like a huge list of names, and Dewey was on there, and I'm like, that's actually a really cute name for a bunny. But we named him Boomy. But yeah, I missed that a little bit. But you know what? Maybe we can have Kirby kind of be the new Dewey.
Yeah, absolutely. And You know what's interesting about Kirby is I didn't really feel like they set her character up to come back necessarily in the seventh one. I kind of felt like, oh, well, Kirby lives nearby or works in this whatever. She's going to do this. I don't know that she would necessarily come in for another movie. I would be down for it and I'd be happy to see her. But, as we're talking more, and this is my first opportunity to actually talk about this movie with anybody. So, my thoughts have all been in my head. I'm realizing that part of the problem I had with Tara and her love interest and Sam and her love interest is that I felt like we were really trying to fill in the Dewey Courtney Cox, or I should say the Dewey Gale gap, the romantic piece of this story. Because like in the fifth movie, it was really powerful, like when she lost him and when she reconnected with him, and all those things happened in the fifth movie. But now we come to the sixth movie and we don't really have any more love interest stories. So I felt like both of those kind of came out of a need. And so it felt a little forced.
I think the whole thing with Sam and Danny was just like sexual release more.
Yeah.
It wasn't really love. I mean, deep down, I think he did. I mean, obviously, he helped save them. So he probably does hold some type of care for Sam. But for her to reciprocate those feelings back, I wasn't feeling it. But I felt more of Tara and Chad. Like, I'm team Tara and Chad all the way.
I felt Sam was having a relationship with that shady neighbor just to get adrenaline. She was having some type of like a high she was getting out of like hurting people like she did in the last film. I feel like she had this like urge to put herself in like danger and to relieve herself of it, and I think that was what her physical relationship was with him.
Yeah, definitely. I just felt like it sort of butted heads with this idea of her being like a recluse who had like five not, locks on her door, and she only went out to see her therapist really or to find Tara, and she's so afraid all the time. It just felt like, you know, a,
I yeah, and like at the end, I don't was he at the in the end when they were going away in the ambulance and stuff? I didn't see
yeah,
him.
he was the one who actually called the police to
Oh, that's
infiltrate.
right.
Yeah, so if it wasn't for her locking him out, um, well, that's not true because Kirby did put a bullet into the final Scream guy's head, or I can't remember who shot who at the very, very end. But yeah,
Yeah.
he did call the police who swarmed the location at the end.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
But I really would have liked because okay, so at the end she has her dad's, aka Billy Loomis's ghost face mask, but then it's kind of like a fake out. We think she's gonna take it with her, but she drops it on the street and walks away. But I was like, oh man, she should have kept that. That would
Yeah.
have been so interesting, and that would have. I felt like they would have left more of a better cliffhanger too with that.
Yeah, I thought she should have kept it too. I mean, why is it in your backpack if you're not going to keep it? Like, what's the point of you even putting it in your backpack and dropping it in the street? Like, I don't know. Let's talk about that though for a minute. I don't think we talked about that enough. The shrine was epic.
Yeah.
I was so it was funny because out of all the things that I was most fascinated by, all the things that hit me the most, it was Jill's outfit. When I saw Kirby looking at Jill's outfit, I was like, this is fucking crazy. Like, this is like a museum of murder. And it's like, and so, even more so did I believe it was the cop because who can get all those things? Cops. And so I was like, it's got to be the cop. But it was just so cool. It was so cool to see all those things and to see like the history play into it. And I don't feel like they did it in a cheesy way. I feel like they did it in a way where it was just cool.
It was set up like a legit museum.
Yes.
And it was like interesting to see some of the victims like Kirby. She sees the knife that she was stabbed with.
That too, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean that part was like, it was cool, but yet it was cool to see like these victims seeing their murder weapons but on display.
Yes, I really liked that. I liked that Gail
Yeah.
saw her books. Um I liked that Kirby ends up getting stabbed with that knife again.
Mhm.
That was really cool.
It was a good callback.
Overall, I am surprised by the fact that this movie is getting such a huge box office, and I'm surprised by the fact that everybody seems to like it more than any of the other sequels, because to me, even though they amped everything up, I felt like it was another great entry, and I don't feel that it stood above or below virtually any of them. I kind of find 2, 4, 5, and 6 to be very much so the same, like level of enjoyment. So to hear everybody thinking that this is the best one since the first one is interesting, and it's not that I disagree, it's that I'm just surprised, and I don't know what specifically it was that really got people going, but it must have been The Shrine. I think it must be The Shrine.
It could have been The Shrine, or the fact that it was just taking place in a big city like New York City and in Manhattan, not a small town.
And what's more is this is technically the first movie. Well, it's weird. There actually is a continuity error that I just realized. Um, in the first movie takes place in California. Um, and I know that because in the second movie, the girl who's at the theater said all these kids got killed a couple years ago in California. And that's when we also find out that Scream 2 actually takes place 2 years after the first movie, even though it came out 1 year after the first Scream movie. So if that's the truth, that means that 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 all take place in California. And then the sixth movie is the first one outside of California. However, Tara makes a comment in this movie that she's from Michigan.
Yeah.
Which actually conflicts, even though they did film in Michigan for part 4. So there's a little continuity error there. But yeah, it is interesting. It's the first time they've been outside of like their normal space.
And it just shows how much fandom is like worldwide, because the cool thing about these movies is it's a movie within a movie.
Yeah.
And it's like basically, I'm gonna say mocking, but like
self-aware.
Yeah, self-aware, and making the audience, like, the audience knows, they know the audience, what they're thinking, what they're seeing. And that, what's it called? The slasher movies that are in Scream.
Oh, Stab.
Sorry, yeah, Stab. It's like loved worldwide, or I don't know worldwide, but nationwide, and it's all the way in New York City that people know about the story and how it like traveled across the country and kind of followed them. But it really didn't, because it was in New York this whole time. Right. Sam and Tara's arrival just kind of amped it up a little bit.
Exactly. I actually was thinking about that. I was like,
yeah.
If these people go to different places, they'll come across different people who have been affected by their story. And you could technically make a Scream movie take place in many, many places, because there's many people at this point who have lost family members because of Sydney or Tara or Sam's, history and, the stories of their families and what their families did. So that actually, for Scream, I feel like they've really set this thing up where they could go forever, like you said, because this movie is because they're mad that the last movie's killer got killed. The second movie was the same thing. They were mad because mom was mad that Billy got killed, and so that's the motive. And it didn't feel repetitive. It felt refreshed to me. It felt more of an homage than just a repeat. And I also thought that the way that they did it was fresh. What I'm nervous about is that they're going to go in the Jurassic Park direction, where Jurassic Park kind of set it up in a way where I just feel like you can't really bring that back down to earth. It's just kind of, it's too much now. So I feel like that franchise is like over. So I'm wondering if the Scream franchise, I feel like one way to kind of come down to the end of it is to like we would see like people outlawing scary movies or some other crazy shit that would like affect the whole world because of these murders. Um, and I'm wondering if they'll ever go in that direction. I kind of hope they don't because once they do, that's going to be a hard place to come back from.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm excited to see if they make 7. I know that last year they announced 6. I think it was 2 weeks after it came out. So maybe in the next week or two we'll hear something about part 7.
I know when we were going into the theater, we were standing next to a Scream poster, a Scream 6 poster. And Mike, you really liked the design of it.
Yes, it's the CTA. Well, not the CTA, but the subways.
Oh yeah,
New York outlined in the shape of Ghostface.
And then the Scream, the title Scream had the Roman numeral too.
Yes,
I like that.
The M.
Yes.
I and the V.
So that was really cool.
Yeah, I like how they utilized that. I thought that was really good. I'm glad that they put a number back on it. You know, I get that it was a joke with calling part 5 just Scream, but now in my queue, I have Scream 5 next to Scream 1, and it just looks very confusing and it upsets me. So I think we just need
not
to
as confusing as Fast and Furious, but it's almost there.
Yeah, I'm like, we just need to keep the numbers going. But yeah, overall, 2 thumbs up. I don't really have. I mean, it's a Scream movie. Like, if you like people getting chased around by someone who's hellbent on killing them, and if you like a mystery-esque story, I mean, this is great. I mean, it's fun. It's simple. But if it's like I can't, suspend reality enough to believe that somebody can be stabbed 20 times and still live, then this is just not the movie for you. And I respect that.
Yeah. So when Scream 7 comes out, what are you hoping? You sit down in the theater. What are you hoping that you're going to see?
Definitely Sidney Prescott. And I know that they've done a good job in sort of being like, well, she's done now. And I really feel like if they did choose to bring her back, she would have to really be involved in some crazy ass shit, maybe even like a killer of sorts. What I don't want to happen is I don't want her to end up being Roman in part 7. I don't want to find out that she was the one who manipulated all these people into going after Sam and her sister because she was mad that Billy cheated on her or something. I don't think that would necessarily be the full motive, but I don't want to see Sydney become a killer. I want them to. I think they will respect her more than that because I just don't think that's respectful. Like I just don't feel if we're gonna make a survivor a killer, I agree with you, Simic. Let's make it Kirby or somebody else. Sydney is like I don't know. So that's what I don't want to see. But I do want to see her.
Would you like to see Sam come back as a killer? Because it's being teased.
You know what? I don't think I do because I just feel like it's been almost too obvious. Like
could be Tara.
Tara would be a more interesting choice. But I just don't think that Sam or Tara seem to have any real reason to want to harm each other. I don't know. And I don't know who is 7th, because that's actually the thing. So we know that we have relationships that we can build on. We know that we have, the legacy characters that can come back. But who really would be a killer in the 7th movie? I mean,
exactly.
Like, who's going to want to kill that? Who's going to want to go after them again? Like, Richie's family is completely dead. And it's very unlikely that what's her name's family from the 5th movie is as crazy as Richie's family. What was her name? The 5th movie killer? Oh my!
I can't remember. But
yeah, I can't think of her name right now. Anyways, I don't think that that's likely. So like, where would they go? So I have no idea, and I'm really upset that I can't remember her character name or anything. But her real life name is, I think, Mikey or Mickey. Anyways, she was great.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad you like this movie.
I do.
It's like the first thing when we came out of the theater, we were like, "Well, I wonder what Kevin thought."
Yeah, I do. I did like it a lot. I thought it was.
Yeah, I was entertained. Mike, you were entertained overall.
Yes, very entertained.
Yes.
Yep.
So, Kevin, we are running out of time, but thank you so much again for coming on. We
It was
love
my
having you.
pleasure. It was my pleasure. I can't wait to come back for another
Yes.
franchise favorite film.
Yes, of course. Like, horror movies come out. You're our number one.
Sounds good to me.
We love them. All right. Well, next time we are going to discuss Shazam 2. So we're really excited to see that. We haven't seen it yet. But when we do, we will make sure to come on and discuss it. So hope you guys have a good week, and we'll talk to you next time.